welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take sources you're curious about, dig in deep, and pull out the key insights for you.
Yeah, we try to make it thorough, but also, interesting.
And today, we've got a really fascinating mix. On one hand, we're looking at the metrics that drive modern SaaS businesses' software as a service. Think subscription software.
The real engine room stuff.
Exactly. And then, on the other hand, some frankly mind-blowing reports about potential discoveries way down beneath the Giza Plateau.
It sounds like a strange combo, I know.
Right. But stick with us.
Because if you think about it, both topics are really about understanding complex systems, digging below the surface, finding hidden information.
So today's mission is kind of twofold. First, get a handle on those key numbers, the KPIs, that tell you if the SaaS business is healthy.
And then contrast that with, well, these emerging, potentially radical ideas about what might be under Giza and the questions that raises.
We've got articles covering SaaS metrics, something called concept mapping, these Giza claims, scaling SaaS, even a bit about the pyramid builders' lives.
So sources ranging from, hardcore business strategy to cutting-edge archaeology reports, maybe even a bit speculative.
Yeah, definitely. So let's dive in and see how we measure success, understand value, uncover secrets, whether it's digital code or ancient stone.
Okay, let's start with the SaaS metrics. Our first set of sources really digs into these essential numbers. Understanding them isn't just, tracking. It's like diagnosing the health of the business.
Right, predicting its future almost. So, first up, customer conversion rate, or sometimes called lead-to-customer rate.
Yeah, essentially the same thing. It basically measures how good you are at turning free trial users into actual paying customers.
Okay, how do you figure that out?
The calculation's pretty straightforward. You take the number of trial users who actually paid up, divide that by the total number of people who started a trial in the first place, then times 100 for the percentage.
Simple enough. And higher is better, obviously.
Absolutely. A high rate usually means people are getting the value during the trial. It suggests your product's good, and your onboarding, how you guide them, is working well.
Makes it easy for them to say yes to paying.
Exactly. But a low rate, that's a red flag.
Yeah. What might that mean?
Could be the trial doesn't showcase the best bits, or maybe the sign-up process is clunky, too difficult.
Or the value just isn't clear up front.
Right. And the thing is, even small tweaks, small improvements here can seriously boost revenue down the line.
Makes sense? Get them in the door, then convince them to stay. Okay, next, churn rate. That sounds less positive.
It is, yeah. Churn is all about loss. It measures how many customers you're losing over time.
Okay.
And there are two main types. Customer churn, that's the percentage of customers leaving each month. And revenue churn, the percentage of your money, your revenue, you lose each month from people canceling or, downgrading their plan.
Losing customers is obviously bad. How bad is churn, really?
Well, the sources really hammer this home. Churn compounds. It snowballs. A 3% monthly churn might not sound terrible.
Seems smallish.
But over a year, that's 36%. You've lost over a third of your customers.
Wow. Okay, that's huge. You'd have to replace all of those just to stand still.
Precisely. So keeping customers, retention, it's absolutely vital. Some folks track customer retention rate, CRR, just 100% minus churn. So 3% churn is 97% retention.
Okay.
But focusing on the churn, the loss number itself, it often lights more of a fire under people to fix whatever's causing it. Maybe the sales pitch promised too much, or the user experience isn't great after they sign up.
Yeah, focusing on the pain point. Okay, get that. What's next? Average revenue per account, ARPA. You see ARPU and ARPC too.
Yeah, ARPA, ARPU per user, ARPC per customer, they're basically interchangeable. This metric helps you zoom in on how much each customer, on average, is worth to you financially.
How's that calculated?
You take your total monthly recurring revenue, your MRR, and divide it by the number of active subscriptions you have.
And why track the average specifically?
Well, let's say your total revenue is going up, which is great.
Right.
But ARPA tells you why. Is it because you're just getting more customers? Or are your existing customers actually spending more on average, maybe upgrading, buying add-ons?
Okay, so it distinguishes between more bodies and more valuable bodies, kind of.
Exactly. It gives you a clearer picture of where the growth is really coming from, which customer groups are most valuable.
Got it. Makes sense. Next one, customer acquisition cost, or CAC. Sounds like what it costs to get a new customer through the door.
That's exactly it. You take all the money you spent on sales and marketing over a certain time and divide it by the number of new customers you actually got during that same time. It tells you how efficient your spending is, how much you pay to win each new customer.
So a big app advertising everywhere probably has a higher CAC than some niche tool spread by word of mouth.
Probably, yeah. And you generally want this number low,
You
right?
think so?
Well, yes. The faster you make back the money you spent getting a customer, the faster you can reinvest that money into getting more customers. Growth.
Okay.
The article suggests a healthy SaaS business should aim to get its CAC back within about 12 months.
A year.
Yeah. If it takes much longer, especially for a new company, a startup, it can really squeeze your cash. Limits how fast you can grow.
Right. Don't want to spend more getting them than they pay you in the first year, ideally. Which kind of leads into the next one. Customer lifetime value, CLV, or LTV.
Yep, CLV or LTV, same idea. This is the total amount of revenue you expect to get from an average customer over their entire relationship with your business.
The whole shebang.
The whole shebang.
Okay.
The calculation is roughly their average spending per period times how long you expect them to stay a customer minus the cost of getting them and keeping them happy.
So longer they stay, more they spend, the higher their LTV.
Bingo. Keep them happy, keep them engaged, maybe upsell them.
Yeah.
LTV goes up.
Makes total sense. Okay, now net revenue retention, NRR. This one sounds a bit more complex.
It is a bit, but it's super powerful. NRR gives you a really good look at the health of your revenue from the customers you already have.
Yeah.
It tracks how much of your recurring revenue you kept from your existing customers, including any extra money they spend on upgrades or add-ons, but also factoring in the revenue you lost from churn or downgrades.
So it nets out the gains and losses within your current customer base.
Precisely. The formula is basically revenue at end of period from customers you had at start, including upsells, downgrades, minus churn, divided by revenue at start of period times 100.
So if it's over 100%.
That's fantastic. It means the growth from your existing customers, the expansions, is more than making up for any losses from churn.
Wow. So you're actually growing without even adding new customers.
Exactly. It shows your product is sticky, you're delivering ongoing value, and you're good at upselling. It's a massive indicator of long-term health. Really powerful metric.
Okay, that one's key. We've hit the big financial ones. The outline also mentions active users and power users. More about usage, right?
Yeah, moving away from just dollars and cents to how people interact with the product, tracking active users daily, monthly, whatever is fundamental, shows basic engagement.
Just are people logging in?
Pretty much. But then identifying your power users, the ones who use it the most, use the most features, that's where you get real insights.
How so?
You study them. What do they do? Which features are crucial for them? How deep do they go? This tells you what really drives value.
Learn from your best customers.
Exactly. Use that info to improve onboarding for everyone, tweak your marketing messages, decide what features to build next, build more of what the power users love.
Smart. And you can see if product changes impact how many people are active.
Yep. Measure the effect of updates.
Okay. Then there's average sessions per day. Seems specific.
It is really crucial if your pricing is based on usage, like number of sessions or logins.
Right. Some plans limit that.
So you need to know the average. Just total sessions over a time period divided by the number of days helps you set those pricing tiers correctly.
So you don't give away the farm, but also don't scare people off.
Pretty much, especially understanding your heady users.
Gotcha. And lastly, for sauce, depth of usage. How much of the product are people exploring?
Right. Beyond just logging in or using the one main feature, it's like, what percentage of all the available features does the average user actually touch?
How's that calculated?
Number of features someone uses, divided by total features available times 100.
And why does that matter?
It shows engagement beyond that first aha moment. Are they finding more value over time? Using more of the toolkit. Higher depth usually means they're more invested, less likely to churn, more sticky.
It really does all seem connected, doesn't it? Good user experience feeds into good metrics.
Totally. That's the whole idea behind the product-led growth flywheel concept some sources mentioned. Great UX leads to more adoption, more engagement, happier customers, which drives better business results. A virtuous cycle.
So wrapping up the SaaS part, what were those key rules of thumb for a healthy business?
The big three takeaways were: aim for lifetime value, LTV, to be at least 3 times your customer acquisition cost, CAC.
3x LTV to CAC. Okay.
Try to get your SAC back within 12 months.
Recover costs in a year.
And aim for at least 30% of your revenue growth to come from expansions, upselling, cross-selling to existing customers. That really helps fight churn and fuel sustainable growth.
Okay, super valuable, framework for understanding a sauce business.
Right.
A complete change of scenery now. Let's talk concept mapping. Sounds like a way to organize thoughts.
That's basically it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a structured way to get ideas from a group of people, stakeholders about something specific.
Okay.
You gather all these ideas, organize them visually, group similar things together, and then you can even rate them like, how important is this idea? How feasible is it?
So making sense of brainstorming almost.
Exactly. Imagine a company wanting to boost morale. You could brainstorm all the factors, group them like work-life balance might include flex time and vacation policy, and then rate how much impact each might have.
It creates a visual map of the thinking.
Right. And it's useful throughout a whole project, from the initial fuzzy ideas to planning to even checking later if you actually did what you planned to do, provides a consistent structure.
How does it work in practice? The steps.
It usually starts with brainstorming. Just generate a ton of statements about the topic.
Get it all out there.
Then you consolidate and edit, clean them up, remove duplicates, make sure each idea is clear.
Okay.
Then the group rates each statement based on criteria you set beforehand. Like, on a scale of 1 to 5, how important is this? Or how easy would it be to do?
So you get ranked ideas. Then the map part.
Yeah. Then software usually helps analyze the ratings and how people group the ideas. You can create different maps. A simple point map just shows each idea as a dot.
Like points on a scatter plot.
Kind of. Then a point cluster map uses stats to group related ideas together visually, maybe draw circles around them so you see the themes.
Ah, natural grouping.
Then you can add ratings. A point rating map might put a little bar next to each point showing its average rating.
Taller bar means more important, maybe.
Exactly. Or a cluster rating map shows the average rating for a whole group of ideas. Helps you quickly see which themes are considered most critical or feasible.
That does sound useful. Taking messy ideas and giving them structure and visual clarity. The article mentioned using it to check on program implementation.
Yeah, because you have that initial map from the planning stage, what you intended to do, what mattered most. Later, you can compare that to what actually happened.
See if you stayed on track.
Right. Identify where things aligned, where they diverged, find gaps. Helps evaluate if the program is working as planned.
Interesting. Okay, a really versatile tool for complex thinking.
Right.
Deep breath. Huge E shift now. Our next source talks about new radar discoveries beneath Giza. This sounds wild.
It really does. This article covers research using a very advanced technique, SAR Doppler tomography. It's not just standard ground-penetrating radar.
How's it different?
Instead of just bouncing waves off things, it measures tiny, tiny vibrations, oscillations of the pyramid structures and the ground below them.
Vibration.
Yeah, micro vibrations. They then convert the radar reflections from these vibrations into what they call phononic information, sort of treating the vibrations like sound waves.
Okay, that's complex.
It lets them build 3D models of what's underneath. They say it makes the pyramids and ground seem transparent in terms of these tiny movements, like medical ultrasound, but with radar analyzing vibrations.
Mind blown. So they're seeing underground by analyzing how it subtly shakes.
That seems to be the idea. Even though the radar frequency they use wouldn't normally go through kilometers of rock, this vibration sensing technique apparently gets around that. They also use something called multichromatic analysis, splitting the radar into narrow bands.
Like different colors of light revealing different details.
Sort of, yeah. And looking at tiny phase shifts in the returning echoes, all this helps them get high-resolution images of what's deep down.
Okay, the tech sounds incredible. What did they find? This is the crazy part.
According to the report, yeah, it's pretty stunning. Under the Khafre Pyramid, the second biggest one, they say they found 5 identical near-base chambers.
5. Identical.
Yep, interconnected, multi-level, with sloping roofs. Apparently similar in design and size, tens of meters long, to the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid.
Whoa! 5 more King's Chamber-sized rooms under Khafre. That alone is massive news, if true. What else?
They also report finding 8 vertical well shafts. Deep ones.
How deep?
About 648 meters. That's over 2,100 feet down.
What?
8 shafts in 2 rows. Each apparently has a spiral pathway carved around it going down.
Spiral paths down 2,000 feet.
And at the bottom of these shafts, 2 massive cubic cavities, huge voids.
How massive?
80 meters on each side.
Yeah.
80 by 80 by 80 meters side by side.
I can't even picture that. An 80-meter cube underground. 2 of them. What could they possibly be?
The article doesn't really speculate on purpose. The scale is just staggering.
Unbelievable. Anything else?
They also report evidence of an extensive tunnel network, multi-level, maybe 2 kilometers wide, running under all 3 main pyramids, Khufu, Khafre, Menkaure, down to those 600-plus meter depths.
A 2-kilometer interconnected underground complex beneath all of Giza. This changes everything, if it's real. What are the implications?
Yeah, revolutionary is probably an understatement. If confirmed, it implies the builders had geological and engineering knowledge far beyond what we currently think.
How could they even excavate that much rock that deep, that precisely?
Exactly. Big questions about methods, maybe lost technology, and, well, it gets even more speculative. Some team members and others are suggesting maybe it wasn't the old kingdom Egyptians who built this underground stuff, maybe it's older, from some other advanced civilization. Atlantis theories, pre-pharaonic cultures, that kind of thing. Their 2022 paper apparently touched on this.
Okay, now we're really in fringe territory. What does mainstream Egyptology say about all this? Skeptical, I assume?
Hugely skeptical, yeah, and understandably so. The biggest issue, no ground truthing, no drilling, no cameras sent down, no digging. It's all based on interpreting this radar data.
Right. It's an image, not a physical confirmation.
Exactly. And then there's the Scan Pyramids project. They used muons, subatomic particles, to scan inside the Great Pyramid, found a couple of voids, like the Big Void.
I remember that.
So skeptics ask, why didn't the muons detect a massive 2-kilometer tunnel network underneath, or these huge 80-meter cubes?
Good question. Though maybe the muons were focused higher up inside the pyramid itself.
That's a counterpoint, yeah. Muons might not see that deep or that wide outside the main structure, but still, the basic scientific principle applies. Extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence.
Needs independent checking with different methods.
Absolutely. Before it gets accepted, you need way more proof. But you have to ask, if this tech is so good, why aren't we seeing similar finds everywhere?
True. The article laid out a timeline, too. This wasn't overnight.
No, about 7 years of work. Started conceptualizing in 2018. Prototype tests in 2019 hit 20 meters deep. Optimized the tech in 2020. Got permissions.
Sensitive site, Giza.
Very. Data collection was mainly 2021 using satellites. Published initial findings on chambers inside the Great Pyramid in 2022 in a peer-reviewed journal.
Okay, so some stuff is published.
But these bigger, deeper discoveries, the shafts, cubes, those were announced more recently, Feb and March 2025, via press conferences.
So the really wild stuff is newer, less formally vetted yet.
Seems that way. They say they plan to share data, hold workshops, make a documentary, YouTube updates. Be open about it.
Okay. So fascinating, potentially world-changing claims from advanced tech, but still needs a lot more verification. Right, let's try and connect these dots. SAS metrics and underground Giza networks. Seems like a stretch.
It does, but maybe the link is measurement. In SAS, you meticulously measure clicks, conversions, churn to understand the system's health.
Right, the business health.
At Giza, they're using incredibly sophisticated measurements of tiny vibrations to map a hidden system.
Okay, I see the parallel. Both using advanced tools on complex data to get insights.
Yeah. Extracting meaning from the noise, essentially.
Though the goal is totally different. One's optimizing future business.
The other's potentially rewriting ancient history. Big difference in focus. But the underlying drive seems similar. Use data, use measurement, to understand something complex more deeply.
And what about concept mapping? Where does that fit?
Well, think about it. Concept mapping helps organize complex ideas, see themes, rate importance. You could absolutely use it for SAW strategy mapping, market factors, user needs, feature priorities.
Sure.
And for Giza, faced with these extraordinary radar claims, conflicting data maybe, old knowledge, concept mapping could be invaluable. Map the evidence, the interpretations, the hypotheses, the questions, see how it all fits or doesn't fit.
Organize the chaos, basically, for business planning or archaeological interpretation.
Exactly. Help see the big picture.
It's also interesting how accepted these things are. SAS metrics are standard. The Giza stuff is highly debated.
Yeah, it shows different stages of knowledge, right? SAS metrics are tested, established. The Giza radar data is new, disruptive, needs that independent verification cycle.
Like the peer review process in science.
Kind of, yeah. But it still mirrors SAS in a way. In SAS, you track metrics, analyze, adapt your strategy. Archaeology also discovers analyses, reviews, refines understanding based on evidence. It's a learning loop, even if one's about business and one's about the past.
So whether it's tracking user clicks or radar echoes, it's about careful measurement, rigorous analysis, and being open to what the data shows you, even if it's unexpected.
That seems to be the common thread, a quest for deeper understanding through data.
This has been a seriously fascinating journey today, from spreadsheets to subterranean secrets.
Definitely covered some ground, modern business tech, ancient mysteries, cutting-edge science, all linked by this drive to measure, understand, and maybe challenge what we thought we knew.
So here's a final thought for you listening in. How might these core ideas, rigorous measurement, being open to discovery, apply in your own life, your own work, whatever you're curious about? Could the way we analyze business success today actually give us new ways to think about the achievements, the mysteries, even the potential secrets of ancient history, or any complex system?
Something to chew on, for sure.
Definitely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.